Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Lindsay, and today I'm going to show you quickly how I make these fabric envelopes. I did promise a subscriber, it was a while back when I did my Under the Sea or By the Sea themed journal, that I would show you the next time I was making one of these. So this is the one that's in that journal that's included, and I'm just going to show you how I've recreated this for my own personal journal, which I will be doing some journal with me's in very shortly. So I've got two pieces of fabric. I have this linen fabric. The original envelope I used like a cotton fabric, it's very flimsy. So I've gone for this linen fabric instead today, which is a little bit stiffer, so I'll hold its shape a little bit better. And I've cut it pretty much to the size of the vintage hanky that I'm using here. So you want to lay it down, you want to lay your hanky or your design or your piece of fabric. You want the outside facing towards your sort of lining. So the linen is going to be the lining fabric. You want the outside, two outside pieces facing together. So we're going to sew right around the edge. I'm showing you with the Fabri-Tac. You can either glue it to hold it in place prior to sewing, or you can obviously pin it, or like me, you can just wing it. It worked out absolutely fine. So because the linen fabric, the original fabric I used, the cotton, it did move a little bit and it was a bit trickier to kind of manipulate to the machine. So I probably should have pinned that one. I didn't find the need to really with this linen fabric, but if you are a beginner, which is a great project for you if you are a beginner, because it's just straight edges, there's not really much margin for error. But if you are a beginner, you probably do want to pin this in place or just pop a line of glue down it, just to hold it where it needs to stay. You could also do this without a sewing machine. If you don't have access to a sewing machine, you can glue it around the edges. So what I would do is glue it around the edge, so on the front side of the fabric, and then lay it down on the front side, leaving a little bit of a gap like we're going to have to leave here. You'll see in a moment I've left about an inch gap. And then you can lay it down, and you can still, once the glue's dried with the Fabri-Tac, you'd still be able to turn it inside out and create the envelope as I'm going to show you in a minute. So obviously sewing is a bit more of a, gives you that sort of that sewn edge, that look, that everybody seems to love with the sewing detail. But obviously if you don't have a sewing machine, you could still make these. So using that little inch gap, I probably should have left a bigger gap because of this fabric, because the linen's quite stiff fabric. It did take me a minute to manipulate it through the gap. So I've just put my finger in, and I've used my other hand to kind of poke, to grab the fabric and poke it through that hole, and I'm just manipulating it through the hole here. I did hear a few stitches tear while I was doing this, but it's fine. It's worked out okay. So don't panic if you start, you think, oh, it's all going to fall apart. It won't. It's fine. Just be as gentle as you can, and just keep pushing it through that hole. And then once it's through, you want to poke the corners out. Again, there are ways of doing this. If you're a bit more of a professional sewer, you will know there's a way of doing this that makes it really gives it a really nice edge and makes it really flat and what have you. But again, we're not going for a professional standard here. It's like a nice, quick, easy beginner project. So once it's poked through, you've done your corners, you want to take it to the iron, make sure the edges are really nice and flat. And while I'm ironing, I'm going to fold it into the envelope shape, which I'll come back and show you. So here you can see the creases. So I've taken it to the iron, I've ironed all around the edge, so my creases are nice and flat. You can see the gap there. So what I've done is, all I've done here is I've folded this edge in, and I'm leaving that gap down on the bottom. You can see where that hole is now laying. So I folded the two sides in, and then I fold the bottom flap up, and you can see now here that you can't now see that gap. If you're worried about that gap, you can hand stitch it, but it really won't affect the use of these envelopes. There's no need to do it unless you're a perfectionist, which I'm totally on board with. You can obviously hand sew it to make it so that there is no gap, but you're not going to see it, so it's fine. So again, if you haven't sewn it, you can still do the exact same thing, take it to the machine, fold the edges in. You'll still get that nice sort of join where the two fabrics meet, because you're still going to fold it inside out. And then of course we're just using some Fabri-Tac here to adhere it all together. And you can also see that my flaps, my edges don't line up perfectly. That's absolutely fine. It all adds to the vibe we're going with our journals. So I mean, you can do this in many different ways. You don't have to use hankies. You can use offcuts. It's a great way to use little snippets of fabrics that you might have lying around. And then you can embellish this with some lace. You can add some eyelets and add a closure to it. You can do all sorts from this point, but this is the basics of making a little fabric hanky envelope. So have fun with it from here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll speak to you very, very soon in the next video.